being with us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts of Impact Partners Financial. Nice to see you.
Always nice to see you.
Yeah, we're going to jump in. We always jump into something after we go, yeah, you know, it's so nice to be here. Unfortunately, when we're dealing with trying to figure out retirement, there feels like so many things that are not nice, and yet we have to address them. We've talked about this. You can't stick your head in the sand and go, I'm not sure, so I'm going to do nothing. Well, there are a lot of risks out there that we have to take. So I want to focus today on the many risks that you may be dealing with. And instead of just backing away and saying, I'm going to do nothing, let's see if we can find some solutions to some of the risks that we're dealing with. I think when we're talking coming out of summer, look, we dealt with a market that for years, late 22 on to halfway through of 2024, the market was roaring, and you could do anything you want and you could figure it out. If you lasted long enough, you were good. And then suddenly a few bumps start to hit, which is what the market does. But people tend to think that maybe market volatility is the only risk that I'm really dealing with. I'm going to go into more than that, but in dealing with market volatility right now, especially as you're moving from accumulation to distribution, right, there's a different thing in how you're going to assess your market risk, correct?
Sure, of course.
What's the best? Is there a formula that we need to deal with? That's probably in the Texas Wealth Report, isn't it?
There are a lot of formulas.
Yeah.
There are a lot. I equate market risk to building a house, right? So you build a house on stone, not sand, right? So we need a solid foundation. That's your money that is solid. It's good, just like the foundation of your home. You're not going to lose that money. Nail that down first.
Okay.
Then, once you've gotten your foundation nailed down, you put up your walls to your house, right? And the walls can crack and shake, and, in Houston, Texas, we can get flooded by hurricanes. And that's your lower and moderate risk type investments. And then your roof on top of your house, that's your higher risk investments. So as long as your house is built properly, you can take some market risk. However, what you don't want is your entire retirement plan based on the market, right? You can have that in there, but we want quite a few different strategies working for you simultaneously. There is no one formula, one strategy, one pill, right? It's a lot of moving parts that all have to work together seamlessly.
And that's kind of changing it when we enter this different stage, because that's all we did, right? While we were working, we had a paycheck. Yep. And we continually moved into the market.
Right.
And hopefully we bought low and sold high. But during that time, that was what we did for decades.
Yeah.
Now we're being asked to do something else in a different way that we have no practice at.
Sure.
So obviously going in, changing the strategy changes the risk.
Absolutely. Well, and the most recent, except for the COVID hit we had, the most recent big market crash most people recall is the Great Recession of 2008.
Yeah.
But most people that are retiring now, they were still working and they were still putting in, and they had a little bit, they didn't get bailed out like all the companies did. They had to put their heads down and keep working and keep saving. But now, as people move closer to retirement, or maybe they already are retired, you have to have a mentality shift there. You can't take the market risk that you could take at 35 or 45 or even 55, quite frankly.
You don't have the time.
You don't have the time, nor, I always tell people there are two different types of market risk that we as fiduciaries have to assess. There's the market risk that you yourself can handle, right? What can you stomach? How much pain can you take? But there's also how much risk can your portfolio withstand? How much risk can your plan take?
This is the risk tolerance versus risk capacity. Because
Correct.
risk tolerance is maybe more of a feelings test than anything else. Yeah, I'm ready to take some risk. I feel okay about it until you understand that your portfolio and the time that you have left going out to try and figure out a retirement, you don't have the capacity for that, what you had as tolerance. Maybe when you were a kid riding the roller coaster, you were fine with it.
Right, right. I mean, it's the same thing. I had a conversation with my dad the other day. He retired a few years ago, and he does not have the same tolerance to go work out with me than he did 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with your portfolio and the risks that you take. And, you know, I think it's really important to understand that we're talking about market risk right now, but there are many other risks that come with retirement too that we have to keep our eye out for.
All right, point out what we need to be paying attention to.
So we need to look at interest rate risk, right? That's a big one. And I have heard people tell me left and right, oh, interest rates going up, that doesn't impact me. Really, don't kid yourself. It very much impacts you. People often have the assumption that, well, I'm planning for retirement. I'm not going to go buy a new house. I'm not going to get a new mortgage. Those interest rates don't impact me. But what do most people want to do in retirement?
Play,
travel, play.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to travel, right? So if you're traveling to the Midwest and you're staying at an Airbnb, you think their rates don't go up because their interest rates are higher, right? Or, you know, you get a wild hair and want to go to Vegas. You stay at some fancy Vegas resort. You think their rates have not gone up? So interest rates impact everything. Just because you're not getting a new mortgage is not reason to think that interest rates do not impact you.
So in moving past that, we're talking about market volatility, the risk that we deal with that, the risk of playing with interest rates at the right time. I think there's one that now over the last 4 years has probably arisen that finally woke people up that inflationary risk is going to be a very real thing, to the point where you simply have to figure a different number in your plan if you want to retire with the same amount of money.
Absolutely. If you don't account for inflation in your plan, you simply don't have a plan. We've got to start looking at these numbers differently, because even the inflation index that's widely used, it does not include food or gas, right? And we know how those prices have been the last few years.
Yes.
So we have to take those into everyone. We work with the assumption that everyone has their own individual inflation rate, right? Because inflation is not an equal opportunity offender. It offends different generations, different classes, all kinds of groups of people. It affects them differently, right? So if you look at people that are going into retirement, tend to have a little bit more medical costs than a 25-year-old,
sure,
right? So in that generation, those medical costs have just skyrocketed. So inflation in that area impacts them very drastically, right? So we have to look at the individual and the family to figure out what their personal inflation number is.
If we're talking about risks, what do you have to offer folks to come in if they're saying, you know what, I'm dealing with a bunch of these risks? What would you have for them?
Yeah, so the Texas Wealth Report runs a risk and fee analysis. Fees are very important because that's a big risk in retirement as well. Are you paying unnecessary fees? So we want to run that risk analysis, the fee analysis. It also includes taxes and income. So we want to put all that together in a package to see basically where you are.
This is what we want to do for you. Do you know where you are? Have you dealt with some of the risks or understand what risks you have in your portfolio? Or in your desire to retire at a certain time, the way you want to retire. Call the number on your screen, 866-254-8026. Set up a complimentary review, and within that, as Summer talked about, that Texas Wealth Report that will assess all of those risks that you have, give you an idea of where you need to be and how we can mitigate those risks. Come in for your own personalized plan, 866-254-8026. Texas Wealth Report returns after this.
We see tons of people every day that think that they have a plan. When we get in and we dive in, there's a lot of missing components. Sometimes it's a good start, it's a good philosophy, but some of the old ways that people used to utilize are not the same things that are going to work these days. Financial planning has shifted and changed over the years, and we have to take that approach and be a little bit more progressive in how we plan for things. What's unique about our firm is we are basically a one-stop shop. We've got an accountant on staff, we've got strategic partnerships with attorneys, we've got a Medicare specialist that can help out. If they need Medicare advice, they just call our office. If they are concerned about long-term care, we can take care of that. We basically want to be everything for our clients so they don't have to worry about going somewhere else. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and you've got all these pieces and they have to fit together. That's one of our focuses, is the overall holistic planning, bringing all those pieces together to complete a full plan. Without that, you're at a lot of risk.
Welcome back to the Texas Wealth Report. Brad Johansen with Summer Roberts. As she just said, it's a jigsaw puzzle, trying to figure out how to put the pieces together. And if you haven't assessed the risk, then the puzzle doesn't fit very well and it won't last. So we've kind of talked about market volatility, the risk that we deal with there. Talking about the inflationary risk. I think what a lot of people are risking at this point is that they don't have an income plan, that once things are done with the work, they're hoping that Social Security is going to take care of it, or maybe the pension's going to be enough for it. Have you run the numbers? Well, I'm not sure I've really run the numbers. This is a math game. When we're talking about income, there are necessities that you have to have. And then what you asked me in the last segment, what do people want to do when they retire? A lot of them want to travel. Yeah. Well, maybe not everybody wants to travel, but I like cars. I want to buy a car. Right. Or you know what? I probably want to have a second home somewhere else. Well, what's the income there that's going to help create that? How do we create an income engine in retirement when we no longer have work?
So I remember years ago, this gentleman, Tom, came to see me. He came to one of my dinner workshops and came into my office afterward to come meet with us. And I remember I was sitting down with Tom, and he was very skeptical, very arms crossed, very
stoic.
Yes, very stoic. Good word. So we're getting into conversation. He's starting to relax a little more and realize, I'm pretty easy to talk to. And I tell him, I say, Tom, okay, did you bring your income plan? Can you? Yeah, I brought it, Summer. So he shoves over a stack this tall of paperwork, and I pick it up and I say, Tom, this is your income plan? He said, yeah, that's my income plan. He'd been with the same advisor for 17 years. So, I assumed there was an income plan, right? I said, Tom, this is not an income plan. This is a portfolio. It was nothing but a stack of statements of various investments, and that was the income plan, apparently. And I said, look, your income plan is 100% based on what the stock market does. Your entire livelihood in retirement is based on the stock market alone. And this is your income plan. This is it.
Have you ever heard, Tom, about 2008? Yeah. And so what did you do?
So, well, we had to start putting all the pieces together. First, we ran a risk analysis to see how much risk was he really at, and was he comfortable with that, and would his plan work with it? And then what we started to do was we put together strategies to where I wanted to put Tom and his lovely wife Liz in a place where they didn't have to think or worry about income, right? We want to, when we're setting up a plan, we want to nail that income down first and foremost. Then we can have fun and go into the market and risk the other money. But if I have his income needs nailed down and I know rain or shine, his income, that my dad used to say it's mailbox money,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
The check is in the mail, it's coming in rain or shine. Then we get that nailed down. We want to use a vehicle that gives us guaranteed lifetime income for both he and his wife. We've got to cover both. And we want that income to increase because we also run into interest rate and inflation risk, right? So we set up a strategy like that. And then with the other money, we could go into the market if he wanted to take a little bit more risk. And that's what I call his fun money, right?
Yeah.
We don't need that for the needs. That's for the wants.
And understanding that there has to be a budgetary situation made up of necessities. And then what do we want to do beyond that? Do you simply want to sit on the front porch, or are there other things that you're going to do? And if you haven't worked out the math in that and dealt with the volatility risk, dealt with the interest rate risk, dealt with inflationary risk, and figured out an income engine, then you're probably missing out. Does the Texas Wealth Report encompass all of this stuff?
That covers everything we just talked about. It covers all those various risks. It gives you a baseline of what your market risk is that you're at currently, and will it sustain? A lot of people come talk to me, and the question I'm asked the most is this going to last? Is this going to last my entire retirement? Well, I can't, let's run the reports, let's do the analysis, and then we can better see. And we can very clearly see, okay, well, yes, it'll last till you're 90, or it'll last until you're 75, right?
Yeah.
And that's the picture we want to paint. That's what we need to see, because we have to see that before any actual planning or strategies can be
You put
set
that
up.
together for them, and I want you to kind of relate to this, because in coming in, this is one of the things that you receive. Summer put this book together, Retire with Impact. What was behind this? Tell me a little bit about writing this book and what you put together. What's in it for people?
Well, I'll tell you what's in this. This is a treasure trove of my stories and my experiences that I have had over the years. These are real life stories that I utilize to express to people that you're not alone. You're not, if you're out there worried about, do I have enough or will it last? You're not alone. There are a lot of other people that worry about the very same thing. And so this book is a compilation of a lot of personal stories that I've experienced through all the years of doing this, so that people can relate and see that they're not alone.
Well, and none of us want to be alone. We want to be able to figure it out. So if you would like to retire with impact, this is a book that's available for you. If you come in and set up a complimentary retirement review, 866-254-8026. And as Summer talked about, they'll put together a Texas Wealth Report that encompasses everything that you need. You're worried about the market. You're worried about inflation. You're worried about whether or not you're going to have impact. You're worried about whether your money is going to last into and through retirement until your last breath. You're not alone. But your plan is different than anyone else's. So why listen to somebody else on what their advice should be? Come in, have a complimentary review. Let us run a Texas Wealth Report so that we can figure out a way to mitigate your risks, to make your retirement the one that you've always dreamed of. 866-254-8026. We'll be right back.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to the Texas Wealth Report. Brad Johansen with Summer Roberts of Impact Partners Financial. We've been talking about risks, and there's so many that are out there. You can't cover them all, but one of the things that we probably need to address once again is taxation risk that we're dealing with right now, what situation we're in right now, and then leading into Social Security, because there's plenty of risk with Social Security. There's a lot of unknown with Social Security. Supposed to be insolvent by, well, it was 2034, then it was 2033, it may be 2032, it may be 2031 by now.
Keeps changing.
It is going to change, and we have to figure out, are you going to get what you can in Social Security? And is the money that you have actually yours? Well, the answer is no, because the government's your partner, and if you haven't figured out a tax plan, it's a risk that you're passing on, and if you haven't had an advisor that's talking to you about taxes, then that's a huge risk. Right now, we have an opportune time to be able to work into some tax strategies that will take you into retirement that can last longer. But some of the rules are sunsetting right now. Playing with the rules that we know is probably a good thing.
Well, that's why time as the urgency is important.
It is.
Yeah, because I mean, when we're talking about tax planning, we've got the rest of this year and next year, and that's it before the tax code sunsets. Now, that does not mean we can't do a tax plan into the future. It just means that once this tax code ends, we really have no idea, no way to know what's going to happen. We know what'll happen if nothing happens, which is it will automatically go back to where we were previously, our prior tax code, which for the majority of Americans, that means an automatic increase in taxes. So let's take advantage of the time we have right now, because look, I'll tell you, I personally believe the biggest risk that retirees face going into retirement is not necessarily some big, huge market crash. Sure, yes, that will happen during those years. It's not going to be crazy high interest rates or crazy high inflation. All of that will happen. But that's not what is potentially catastrophic to people's retirement. What's catastrophic is the tax risk, because we are sitting on top of a huge tax bomb with our retirement plans, because you have not paid one dime of tax on that money. It's all been tax deferred all these years. And so as we keep going, and it just keeps growing bigger and bigger, later down the road when you take it out and taxes are potentially much, much higher, you could be sitting in a very, very risky place. But if we know this and we plan ahead, there are strategies and there are plans. But I always ask people, are you having this conversation with your advisor?
Yes.
When was the last time you discussed this with your advisor? And the majority of the time, Brad, people are never having this conversation with their advisor.
Why?
And I don't know, because to me, I feel like it's one of the biggest, most important risks in retirees.
Maybe because it doesn't benefit the advisor to be able to deal with that.
That could unfortunately be true.
Well,
yes.
As we move in from that, and I kind of touched on Social Security because those rules are ever changing as well. I mean, and we moved in RMD ages, required minimum distributions, from 70 to 73. It's going to go to 75.
Right.
Trying to pick the magic number as to when it's right. This is all included when we're dealing with trying to figure out our best tax strategies. Do we convert into Roth? Do we do it now?
Right.
Do we do some of it later? Do I turn on my Social Security now? Do I turn it at 62? Do I go at 65? Should I wait till my full retirement at 66 and a half or 60? Do I wait till 70 when all of this is included in the numbers? Because math wins when you're dealing with, and the Texas Wealth Report does that for you.
Right, because, I mean, everyone asks all those things, and it's a crazy puzzle, but it can be put together if you work with a professional. And our Texas Wealth Report, we typically will run various scenarios. We will run, and it will nail down the top, I'd say 2, maybe 3 options for the timing of things, when to file for Social Security that's best for you. If you have a pension, what's the best option there? So we want to put all of that together, package it up nicely, and give it to people and say, here, this is your ideal situation.
Because knowledge is power.
Right.
This is what we're trying to do for you, to put the whole thing together, to make the puzzle fit so that it works for you. It's all included within the book, Retire with Impact. A copy of this comes with a complimentary portfolio review that takes you into the Texas Wealth Report that covers all of the risks that we've been talking about. It mitigates those, tries to get you into a feeling of, maybe I can do this. You only get one chance at retirement. Let's do it right. 866-254-8026. As always, we're so grateful for your time. Thanks for joining us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts. Till next time.